First up from Duck, I have a question. Do you think cults could be good in some way, shape, or form?
That is a good question, actually. That question was asked by somebody on my YouTube live chat during the stream when I was streaming the podcast. There are different types of cults, and there are cults that can be constructive, and there are some that are destructive. So it is very important to draw the line between those two things. Okay, I wanted to just look at this real fast. This is called the influence continuum. So something is a cult if it meets the markers on the bite model. That's the bottom line. There are some cults that are not harmful, though. There are football cults, just groups of people that get together and have very strict doctrine and come up with ideas to spread to each other and to other people and things like that. But the influence continuum is the thing that determines if it's a destructive cult or not. Things like, does it form a new identity in you? Is the love and friendship that they offer conditional on the basis that you are a part of this cult? Do they encourage your beliefs to be based on the doctrine or on your conscience? Is your moral compass based on the doctrine or your conscience? Do they encourage solemnity, fear, and guilt, or creativity and humor? Do they encourage dependency and obedience, or free will and critical thinking? So there is a difference between a destructive cult and just a regular cult or a constructive cult. When I say cult, generally, I'm talking about the destructive variety. Jehovah's Witnesses are a destructive cult. Scientology is a destructive cult, for example. So yeah, to answer your question, there are cults out there that are not destructive. I'd rather not be a part of any cult at all, but there are some out there that can be constructive in various different ways. So anyway.
This one coming from Trigor. Has Telltale listened to Jesus is King? If so, what do you think about it?
I think Jesus is King is one of Kanye's new songs, if I'm correct on that. I listened to a couple of songs on that new album, just like the first few seconds, and they've got a solid beat, but the content of the songs is just the literal worst. Like, I cannot stand it. It's just all about God and Jesus, and it's just, ugh. I can't stand to listen to it. It's garbage. Like I said, he's an amazing artist. It's just the lyrics just kill me. I just can't stand it.
This one from Devin Dotson. I have a question. What is the most recent update with the child lawsuit against JWs?
Not too many updates right now. The thing about lawsuits, especially class action suits and things, is that they take a really long time to litigate. I think it's Zockin Law Firm that's handling a lot of these situations right now, a lot of these lawsuits. At this immediate moment, they're just gathering information, gathering plaintiffs and discovery and all of that other good stuff. And we're just going to sit on it and wait until we have more information, and then they're going to move forward. And the moment I get an update or hear anything at all, you can bet that I will be here talking about it. In fact, I'll probably be on my main channel talking about it.
Rain asks, what do you think about political shunning? Families threatening to disown members who vote a certain way, like my mom and me mentioning Bernie. How do we best stop that?
I don't believe in shunning at all for any reason ever, basically. Maybe I have a harder line stance on that because I've been the victim of it, but I think shunning is always a bad thing. This has come up. All right, this is going to be a little controversial, so bear with me through it. This has come up in my community on YouTube, like the atheist community on YouTube. If somebody has objectively harmful beliefs, how do we handle that? How do we deal with that? Do we continue to talk to them? Do we continue to be friends with them, knowing that what they're saying and what they're doing is legitimately harmful? Or do we cut them out of our lives completely and just shun them, basically? Just create a firewall. Never talk about them again, never think about them again. This has actually been an issue very recently. Like in the past 6 months or something like that. What do we do? How do we handle this? I don't believe in shunning under any circumstances. I'm friends with Steve Woodford. rationality rules, and I will remain friends with him because I do not believe in shunning, and he's dealt with a lot of backlash over some beliefs that he had over something. I'm not even going to get into it right now, but I don't believe in shunning under any circumstances, so I'm going to remain friends with him, and I'd probably even work with him, especially since he revised his position on the whole, trans athletes in sports. He's revised his position to not where I am with it, but to a better place than he was originally, at least. I don't believe in shunning under any cases, and I think it should be treated the same in all cases. Don't shun, bottom line.
This one coming from Jesse Bear. Did you see some of the Duggars went to KW new church concert? They posted it on Instagram.
Oh, the Duggars went to the new Kanye West church thing? Interesting. I did not hear about that. In the Stephen Hassan video where I discussed Trump and everything with him, we talked a lot about dominionism and evangelicals, and how a lot of the time evangelicals are kind of viewed as like mainstream Christianity, but they're not at all. Like, evangelicals are a very unique, special brand of Christian that's actually very, very different from your standard run-of-the-mill mainstream regular old Christian. They're very, very extreme. A lot of the time you'll find evangelicals homeschool their kids and they have the Christian pledge. They teach them like Kent Hovind's extremist brand of Christianity and all kinds of stuff. The Duggars are kind of a member of that whole evangelical bit. And obviously Kanye is trying to get in on that whole thing with the whole evangelical bit, especially considering the fact that he went to Joel Osteen's church and talked to all of them. I think that they all kind of fit together, the Duggars, Kanye, Joel Osteen, evangelicals more generally. And it's an extremely harmful brand of Christianity. It's like, I think Stephen Hassan was talking about it in the Trump video, saying that dominionism in Christianity is kind of like Wahhabism in Islam, which is like an extremist movement. Wahhabism is where like ISIS came from, for example. Don't get me wrong, there's no basically ISIS equivalent in the US. There are people that are equally as extreme, but they're not willing to kill for most of the time for their beliefs, for example, like ISIS is, especially not in brutal ways. So they are different, but they're extremely similar in many ways, dominionism and Wahhabism. So
This one coming from My Little Anxiety. What's it like to be doing this and having such a large base of people who support you?
It's amazing. I could not possibly be more thankful for like all the people that just come and listen. I was a software engineer before I got into YouTube. I was doing YouTube at the time. No, I've been doing software engineering for like 6 years, and then I started YouTube 3 years ago. So I was doing software engineering before YouTube. But at any rate, I had multiple jobs in software, and in a lot of ways, I felt like it was almost kind of like a dead end. Like when I was little, I always wanted to create something that people would use. That was my dream, and I've been programming since I was 9. My brother taught me how to write programs in C when I was like 9 years old. And I've been doing it ever since. I love programming, and I always have. But a lot of the corporate or a lot of the companies that you need to work for in software engineering are just dead ends in a lot of cases. They're just like soulless corporations a lot of the time. And even if you find a good startup that's actually really cool, really inspiring and exciting, and you love what you're doing with it and everything else, even if you find a startup like that, which I did, most of the time, you're going to have to work your ass off at those startups for free because you believe in the company and because they're so small and they don't have the money to put into it like big corporations do. And a lot of the time, these little startups completely underestimate they don't understand. They're kind of walking through the dark, trying to figure out how to do this whole thing because it's a young company. and they'll hit a lot of pitfalls, and you're going to hit those pitfalls along with them. The other option to working for a startup is working for a big soulless corporation that knows exactly what they're doing, but it's just counting time until the day you die. It's terrible sometimes. Some of them are really terrible. But anyway, it's not like that with YouTube. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, there are people who listen to me as they're driving to work every day. It's an amazing thing that people value what I have to say and what I think and everything the way they do. It's absolutely amazing, and I could not be more happy about it. Seriously. It's amazing. But one thing that I tell every young aspiring creator when they're trying to like come up in the YouTube atheist community, one thing I always tell them is the moment you start identifying as your character is the moment it's over. Like I'm not Telltale. I just run the Telltale channel. When I start viewing myself as Telltale, I let all of the cheers and the love and the praise and the adoration go to my head, and it's over from there for me. I've turned into a piece of shit that I don't like or want to identify with. So I'm just Owen Morgan. I'm not Telltale. I just run the Telltale channel as far as I'm concerned. I actually said that to genetically modified skeptic Drew. I told him that like years ago. And I think he's taken it to heart because I don't read any of that shit from him. Like, I've been to conferences with him. I've planned conferences with him. And I've never one time ever gotten the impression that Drew is like self-absorbed in any way or thinks that he's some special thing because he's got this platform. I've never gotten that impression about him before. So anyway, something to think about. We of Little Faith sent a super chat, said, a lot of the Christians I'm still Facebook friends with have bought into Kanye's new Christianity without even questioning it, which of course they have. Yeah, that's really, really disappointing. Really scary stuff, honestly. Like, Kanye is trying to attach himself to this extremist, dominionist kind of brand of Christianity, like the evangelical extremist brand. And he's succeeding because he's got a big-ass platform. The next super chat, again from We of Little Faith. Weekly reminder that Voice 2 did nothing wrong. You are incorrect, madam. Voice 2 did something wrong, and you know it did, and you're just trying to cover for their lies. Anyway, let's see here. I think that's all of the super chats. Just taking a quick look-see here. Okay, I think we're in good shape then. Glenn kind of came on the podcast for a minute there. Glenn made a cameo appearance. Welcome, Glenn. It's fine. If you like what I do and you want to make sure I can continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, you can support me on Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. I'm trying to make a shirt design for every cult I've covered. I haven't gotten every one, but I'm working on it. So check it out and see if your cult is up there. Second, you can support me by checking out my game shop. I sell controller, cartridge, and game box stands for every system from the original Nintendo and Sega Game Gear to the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. So give that a look too. And finally, if you want to support me in some way other than monetarily, you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have a retro game channel where I answer questions like, why does Shy Guy have a mask? And why are CRT TVs the best way to play retro games? I also have the podcast where I talk about stuff I don't feel I can say on a monetized channel. And finally, I have my main channel where I talk about cults. I wish I didn't have to worry about dancing around subjects carefully in the first place, but I chose to do this as a full-time job, so unfortunately I rely on YouTube's AdSense and on the support of patrons to continue doing the work I do. Anyways, check me out in all those places if you haven't already. Thanks for listening, guys.